Cat's Cradle by Kurt Vonnegut is a very popular book that is about the end of the world, brought on not by humanity's evil, only its flaws. The book starts off in New York at a research center and ends up going to San Lorenzo, where it spends most of the time. It takes place around the time of World War II. The aforementioned scientist is one Felix Honecker, preeminent physicist and co-creator of the atomic bomb. The narrator of the book is a man named John, who has been researching Honecker as part of a book on the bombing of Hiroshima. Although Honecker is now dead, John comes into contact with his children while doing research from the book and learns a great deal about the reclusive scientist, including the rumored existence of a substance called Ice-9 double prime, which has the ability to rearrange the molecular structure of water so that it is solid at room temperature. Originally developed for the military in order to help soldiers navigate easier over muddy terrain, it also has the side effect of converting every drop of water it comes into contact with into this new solid state, something that could have tragic consequences for the world's water supply. To make matters even more complicated, Honecker left the substance to his children Frank, Angela and Newt after his death, after which they each traded their shares of the substance away for their own personal gain. John and the three Honecker children ended up in San Lorenzo, a tiny, rocky island nation located in the Caribbean Sea. The country's form of government is a dictatorship, under the rule of ailing President Papa Manzano. San Lorenzo also has its own native religion, Boconanism, a religion based on enjoying life throughout its harmless untruths. As the novel progresses, John learns of Ice-9, a substance that can turn water into ice at room temperature. It was created by the late Honecker and is in possession of his children. Manzano learns that he has cancer that he cannot best, so instead of trying to fight it, he takes a bit of Ice-9 given to him by one of the children. He freezes to death and commits suicide. John is the next person in line to take over. As the immigration is taking place, there is a group of small Air Force doing an air show, and one of the pilots crashed into the building and the body of Manzano drops into the ocean, changing the rest of the world's water into ice. This means that everyone on the planet slowly starved to death. John takes refuge in a cave for months where he meets Boconan, the founder of the Boconan religion, who is contemplating what the last words of the books of Boconan should be. The three ways that this connects to the real world is that 1. Respecting your elders or authoritative figure. 2. Dictatorship vs. freedom of speech. 3. Cruelties of war. The main connection to the real world is that you should always respect your elders or authoritative figures. In the story, Honecker leaves the Ice-9 in 3 different parts to his 3 children and trusts that they will not use them for evil and keep them very low-key. Instead of that, they trade their pieces of Ice-9 for personal gain. This happens all the time in the real world. For example, kids that take part in illegal substance abuse or underage drinking when they are certainly encouraged to not take part in either situations. Also, when people fight for reasons other than self-defense. We as humans are always taught that violence, other than when desperately needed, is never the answer to solving any problems. But people still take part in all 3 acts. If people would stop fighting, then there would be less deaths, refugees and forced immigrants all over the world, because people would be happy to live in their homes and not have to leave for violence or even war. If people who are underage started drinking or abusing narcotics, they would not get addicted to these substances, and it would help the future as humans, because there would be less drunk/high drivers, and just drunk/high people around to disturb the peace around the world. In the book, if Honecker's kids would have left the Ice-9 alone, it would have stopped any risk of it getting into the wrong hands, which it did not. And it would stop the risk of destroying the world, which it also did not. Secondly, during the book they learn of San Lorenzo, who is led by Papa Manzano, a dictator that took over the land from Boconan and some other people. They preached the ways of being at peace through religion. They introduced a religion called the Boconan religion. This did not go down well with Manzano as he tries to get rid of the religion. This connects to the real world very truly and easily, except that most dictatorships that take over practice a different kind of religion. There are many countries that have had a freedom of speech, but turned to a dictatorship, such as Afghanistan, Sudan, and Yemen, run like a dictatorship. In the story, Lozano tries to preach a different religion, or even atheism, and that's what happens in these countries that are listed and in many countries all around the world. Lastly, because of war, Honecker had created the IS-9 even though he thought it was extremely evil. He tried to keep it away from anyone's knowledge, but people still got their hands on it. This leads to the world getting freezed and everyone dying. In the real world, weapons are being constructed every day, and they're getting even more destructive. For example, the nuclear missile is called a weapon of mass destruction and can wipe out a major city with ease. This shows that both the book and our world are very capable of starting wars that can destroy the planet and leave behind many casualties, and may even wipe out major populations. As proved in the books, it only takes one man who has enough weapons to affect the world in a major way. Some major quotes throughout the story that help my real-world connections are: a scientist turned to Father and said, "Science has now known sin." And do you know what Father said? He said, "What is sin?" Chapter 6, paragraph 15, perhaps the best quote to signify Cat's Cradle's discussion of science. Sure, some people may consider science beyond sin or morality, since it only seeks knowledge. But they are wrong. Everything has consequences. This quote relates best to my first and third quote, because it says that everything we do, no matter what the reason or even the result, it all has consequences that will come back to us. For example, for the first quote, if not listening to an authoritative figure like Honecker, the children take the IS-9, and it ends up freezing the whole world. And for the third quote, every war always has its victims and casualties, so that is why it is not always worth it to fight, and it is not a good idea to keep expanding the world weapon arsenal. Because it always come back to either haunt us or glorify you in the end. I would have been a Bokononist then, if there had been anyone to teach me the bittersweet lies of Bokonon. Chapter 1, paragraph 10, Bittersweet Lies? Why would the protagonist want to be a Bokononist if he knows it's a religion of lies? This is because he wants to be part of a community which is peaceful and is at ease. This quote also relates best to my second point, because it proves that people have their own opinions on religions, and why or why not to join. So that is what may drive people to take over and instate the new policy just in case that one is not liked. Thank you for listening to my podcast about Cat's Cradles. Written and produced by Josh Hall. Voice recorded by naturalreaders.com.